Me too. It's nice to finally meet.
Likewise. So, tell me about yourself.
They thought it would be funny. They thought humiliating a lonely single father on a blind date would give them a good laugh, a viral moment, something to brag about later. But as the prank unfolded, none of them realized they were mocking a man whose silence hid unbearable grief, a woman whose kindness masked a painful past, and a night that would expose every lie they believed about love, class, and dignity. And when the truth finally came out, the laughter died first. Daniel Cross hadn't been on a date in 6 years. Not since the night his wife died in a car accident while rushing to the hospital where their son lay sick with pneumonia. Not since he learned what it meant to hold a child with one arm while burying the love of his life with the other. Now 42, Daniel was a self-made millionaire, the CEO of a logistics company that quietly powered half the city's supply chains. But wealth meant nothing when he came home to silence. Except for his 9-year-old son, Leo, who still slept with the hallway light on. Daniel didn't dress like a millionaire. He didn't talk like one either. He wore the same worn jacket, drove an old sedan, and avoided attention whenever possible. That's why his assistant insisted on arranging a blind date. "Just dinner," she said. "You deserve a life too." So on a rainy Friday evening, Daniel walked into a modest restaurant downtown, nervous in a way no boardroom meeting had ever made him feel. At a corner table sat the woman from the photo. Her name was Emily. She wasn't flashy. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back loosely, her eyes warm but cautious. She stood when she saw him and smiled gently. "Daniel," she asked. "Yes." "Emily." That smile, soft, sincere, instantly eased something tight in his chest. What Daniel didn't know was that 2 tables away, a group of people were watching closely. Emily's co-workers. They had set this up as a joke. Emily worked as a librarian, quiet, reserved, often teased for being too nice and too boring. When they discovered she had agreed to a blind date with a single-father millionaire, they assumed she was lying or delusional. So they planned a prank. They whispered, laughed, and waited for the right moment. The waiter arrived and took their order. Conversation flowed easily. Daniel spoke about Leo, about bedtime stories and school lunches. Emily listened, really listened, her eyes softening whenever Daniel spoke about his son. Then the prank began. One of Emily's co-workers approached the table pretending to be an angry ex-girlfriend. "Oh my God, Daniel," she yelled. "You're doing this again. Dating women and lying about your life." Heads turned. The restaurant went quiet. Daniel froze. I don't know you," he said calmly. The woman scoffed. "Sure. Last month you told me you were broke, now you're a millionaire." Laughter erupted from the nearby table. Emily stood up immediately. "That's enough," she said firmly. "Please leave." But the prank escalated. Another coworker shouted, "Ask him how much money he really has. Bet he can't even pay the bill." The humiliation burned Daniel's face, but he didn't raise his voice. He didn't defend himself. Instead, he quietly reached into his wallet and placed his card on the table. Emily looked at him, not embarrassed, not suspicious, but angry on his behalf. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You don't deserve this." Daniel shook his head gently. "It's okay," he said. "I'm used to people thinking money defines worth." That was the moment something shifted. The laughter stopped. Because they realized he wasn't reacting like a fraud. He was reacting like a man who had already lost everything that mattered. The restaurant manager approached, tense. Daniel calmly stood up. "I'll take care of the bill," he said. "For everyone." The co-workers laughed again, until the manager's face changed as he looked at the card. "Mr. Cross," he said quietly. "Your table is on us tonight." The room fell silent. Someone whispered, "Cross, like Cross Logistics." Daniel nodded politely. "Yes." Shock rippled through the restaurant. Emily's co-workers stared in disbelief. One of them stammered, "You're really him?" Daniel turned to them, his voice steady but heavy. "I didn't come here to prove anything," he said. "I came because I wanted to try believing in happiness again. Then he turned to Emily. "I understand if you don't want to continue this evening," he said softly. Emily didn't hesitate. She picked up her coat. "I'd like to," she said. Somewhere quieter. They walked out together, past stunned faces, past the wreckage of cruelty. Outside, rain fell softly. Emily stopped and looked at him. "I'm not impressed by your money," she said. "I'm impressed by how you stayed kind when you were being humiliated." Daniel swallowed hard. "That's what my son watches me for," he said. "How I handle pain." Weeks turned into months. Emily met Leo. She read him stories, helped with homework, sat beside Daniel during the nights when grief returned unexpectedly. She didn't replace Leo's mother. She honored her. 1 year later, Daniel stood in the same restaurant, this time holding Emily's hand. As Leo placed a small ring box on the table, Daniel knelt. Not as a millionaire, but as a man who learned that dignity, patience, and kindness outlast cruelty every time.